But this is Nick McCown, and he writes fantasy, epic fantasy, cozy epic fantasy, right? Is that how you would
That'll work.
describe it? Yeah,
I would describe
cozy.
it. Yeah, kind of like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you can find me. I don't do updates on it much, but I need to. It's just my name, nickmccowan.com, spelled out. Nick McCowan writes on the social media platform. Like I think that's me on Instagram and Nick McCowan on Facebook. If you go to the website though, there's a link tree that has a link to all my stuff on it.
Tell me about what you're working on right now.
Right now, I'm kind of working on a couple things, bouncing back and forth between editing and revising one manuscript and writing on another. I've kind of pushed the writing aside for a little while because I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go, but I kind of figured that back out, so I've jumped back into that. But I've also been trying to edit and revise this second book that I'm working on. I've got one that's pretty much complete that I need to get my query letter better on, but the next one I'm working on is a bit longer. It's around closer to 80,000 words. My first one was 50,000, or sorry, 55,000.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so right now I'm trying to get that up to snuff and finding some of the issues in that. And as far as my current writing project, uh, it's coming along pretty well. I'm about 20,000 words in on it, but
Okay.
I've still got a ways to go on that. But I've kind of been working on the history of my world as well,
Okay.
because that's really going to inform a number of the events and background, the setting, uh, like things in the background and the setting and all that are kind of informed by this world's history. So I kind of took a break from both of those projects to kind of work on that for a while before I really jumped back in, and I feel a lot better about it now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just a lot of world building. Is it in the
Hmm.
same story
Hmm.
line? Okay. So
Pretty
same.
much. It's different people,
Okay.
and a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's in different eras. Like like my fantasy world has the stuff that I'm working on now is all technically a prequel to what I was originally working on.
Hmm.
And so I've just been kind of doing a lot of world building to fix some of the issues that original piece of work had.
Okay.
I'd like to get back to that eventually, but uh, but yeah, it largely deals with the same families and or like there's multiple individuals and stuff in it, but it kind of largely does center around the same like families and stuff over the
Okay.
course of the history that I'll be talking about. Not now,
Right.
there's other background stuff that's just all world building that's mainly for me to use to add context here and there when the characters are explaining things or
Yeah.
thinking about a different part of the world or something like
Hmm.
that. But it largely does center on like a few families
Okay.
overall, just over kind of a long stretch of time.
Okay.
Like the
All
main
right.
story I'm working on will take place probably over the course of about 50 years or so, maybe
Okay.
maybe
Oh,
less, but
wow. That's a
yeah,
good span of time
yeah.
for one
Well,
novel.
well, it's not for one novel; it's for a
Okay, it's
series of
for the
novels. Yeah,
series. Okay.
yeah.
All right. But that's nice. I like that. I like that for several reasons because your readership can grow with what you're writing, but then
Hmm.
you can also bring in younger and older readers depending on which perspective you're talking about at whatever point in the timeline it is. So I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I like that. Yeah, because and I think I mentioned Tad Williams before, where I started off reading his books as a teen, and then he came back years later and wrote like a sequel or kind of continuation of what was happening, but now it was those characters that were coming of age, now they're grandparents raising their grandson because their son died. And
Oh, okay.
so even though the characters are older than me, they're still like having that same like raising a teenager type of
Hmm.
that's almost an adult type of conflict. And so I can understand the story from their perspective and really get into it and the emotions and of that, but then also still enjoy the coming of age story from the perspective of the the 17-year-old, character who's, going through his first adventure. So yeah, so that I really like that. I think that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is neat. Yeah, I like yeah, I like being able to work through different perspectives like that. It's kind of fun on the writing side of it too, to try to get into the mind of, somebody that like, I was young once, so I can kind of get into that. Like, there's kind of things that are all kind of universal, but it's neat trying to get yourself in the headspace of writing certain characters because largely I write from third person limited, so most
Hmm.
of my chapters are from uh, the perspective of one of the characters at a time. So
Yeah.
I kind of like to try to get into um, the headspace of the character at the time of who I'm when I'm writing them, so I can kind of think what they're thinking. It just kind of seems to make like dialogue and their thoughts and stuff like that come more naturally if I can try to identify with who I'm writing at the
Yes.
time.
Do you do you find that difficult at all? Are there certain characters or perspectives that you find hard to get into?
Um, not really so far. I've done some experimentation with the some of the first stuff I was writing was from the perspective of like a young boy, like a 9-year-old
Hmm.
boy, and that's a little bit hard to get into it for, I guess. I don't know. It seems like it kind of came a little naturally because I just tried to think of what I would have, how I might have reacted when I was a young, not
Hmm.
exactly necessarily that age, but I just try to put myself in that headspace. And what I like to, I can't remember where I read it, but a little while back read that somebody said about writing characters, about like self-insert characters and all that every character that you write is often some form of self-insert because you can
Hmm.
draw from something in yourself, be it emotions or knowledge or this or that. There's either good characters, bad characters. We all draw from the multi facets of our own selves to flesh those characters out, and it really helps to be able to get into the headspace of even if it's a character that you don't like. I haven't done a lot of writing from like a villainous perspective, so I'll have
Hmm.
to. I don't know if it's because I think it would be hard or just because I haven't really had that. Uh, I haven't had need of it really yet in what I've been
Hmm.
writing. So that will be a little bit different, but overall, no, I just try to. I try to put some of myself into it when I'm writing. Just try to think of um how I might feel or how I had feel, have felt in certain situations. It's that I
Hmm.
draw from, be it grief or anger um or that. I haven't had a ton of issue with that. How about you? Do you how do you
Um,
go? What's your method
well,
for that?
so I yes and no. So for the most part, no.
Hmm.
It is like you said, I feel like there I can put a little piece of myself in each of my characters, even if it's a male perspective
Hmm.
or even the villain perspective. I think
Hmm.
when I write from the villain point of view, I try to think of how I would respond to the situation and whatever the opposite of that is.
Right.
Or yeah, or whatever the extreme is, or I try to pull from an experience that I've had that I
Hmm.
feel was a villainous experience, and
Right.
I pull from that, and try to pull the emotions that I felt, but kind of flip it for the villain, like what were
Yeah.
they thinking, or that type of thing.
Hmm.
But it is hard to write some perspectives because of the nature of what they do. It's like, oh, I don't want to be in this character's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. That's going to be a little bit more of an issue. But I think something that like with a like I've seen I believe George R. R. Martin had said that on his A Song of Ice and Fire series he sometimes has issues writing point of view chapters for the character Bran because he's just a little boy and he has a little bit of a hard time getting into that headspace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I haven't had that necessarily, but I can see how somebody would have an issue with that if, and especially like to put it with what you were saying as far as a villainous character,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, well, I don't want to be in this guy's head. Uh, Something I have tried to do on a few characters, just as far as notes on them for when I'm writing their dialogue, because even if it's not like a chapter from their point of view, I'd kind of like to try to
Yeah.
come up with what their motivations are, what they're thinking when they're talking as well. So I've been trying to. I've noticed I had an issue a lot of times with just writing my villains just pure. Uh, they're just evil, especially
Mm-hmm.
early on. Like I didn't have, and there's some that I had a little bit more. No. Have a little bit more motivation going on than that. But I try to think more about not necessarily what makes them bad and what makes them what they are, but think of other things about the character to kind of humanize them because most, villains don't think that they're villains a lot of times, really.
Correct. Yes.
They think that they're correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to try to think of that from their try to and think of other things, aspects of their character besides things that make them bad also.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there is like a trend, especially in like modern fiction of the morally gray villain
Mm-hmm.
character where the anti-hero or anti-villain where there
Right.
aren't necessarily even truly villains in certain things or not because they end up being, like Disney's been doing it a lot lately with um or a few times. I know they did like the Cruella and
Yes.
Maleficent and stuff where they'll
Maleficent.
go, and
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. I think it's interesting to do that with characters, but I think it's sometimes a mistake when they do that with characters that are like a stat. Like Cruella de Vil is
Mm-hmm.
just a lady that wants to, make a coat out of puppies. So
Yes.
like I don't really think that
I
I don't need
don't,
her.
yeah. There's no
I don't think
there's
we
no
need to try to
redemption for that
humanize this character.
character. Like
Yeah, we don't need to go down that
you have to
road,
like
but
retcon the whole story.
right. Which yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are plenty of interesting stories like that, but I think taking established characters like that and trying to find, I mean, it can be interesting sometimes, but I don't know. I do like having characters that are good and like good and bad,
Mhm.
and the dichotomy of that. But but yeah, we all um, we all have things about us that we like aren't great sometimes that we're
Yeah.
like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, and I try to draw from that sometimes too,
Hmm.
things like that, or ways that I don't know. I'll try to get into it more when I'm working like on. That's something I need to do probably as an exercise, work on writing from my villain's perspective some, or even if I don't decide to put it in my work, it would probably be a good way
Yeah.
um, to get more into their headspace
Yeah.
and that. I could say that being a little bit of a challenge, depending.
Yeah. Like some prompt writing or almost like journal writing, but from the villain's perspective.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think. Yeah.
no, 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 go
No,
ahead.
that's it.
Um, I was so I've had the privilege of reading your work.
Oh,
And I know that you sent
you flatter
me
me.
yeah, your revision. And I really liked the way you revised the beginning.
Oh, thank you.
And it wasn't you didn't do a lot to it. So without spoilers, can you tell me kind of your thought process when you were working with revisions, when you were doing, especially like your beginning, but like what were you thinking about in the revision process? Because I know that can be really hard to go
Hmm.
back. I mean, you've written, 50 something thousand words and you've gotten it as perfect as you can get it. But then inevitably 2 weeks later, you're like, oh man, I could have said it this way.
Hmm.
So yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I basically had a certain way that I had the story that I wanted the story to begin, and then I was having a little bit of trouble finding the hook in it though. Um, and yeah, without going too much into it, it started with a guy just walking down the road with his, on a cart, and it's in the evening, and that's all. There wasn't anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's just okay. Yeah, it's kind of generic. And there's an issue that I've read that a lot of authors have, like with starting, is starting their they don't they the beginning of it isn't at the beginning. Like you got to
Hmm.
try to find the true beginning of your book. So um, the way I originally had it, there's several pages of a man going down the road and watching the sunset and stopping and setting up his fire at the roadside and getting his dinner ready, and then he sees that there's been an intruder um, at his uh, at his camp. So what I realized is that's the inciting incident, that the fact that this guy sees an intruder in his camp, or sees that there was one, sees some footprints, and that was, I think, the kind of first hook and interesting segment of that chapter. So I decided to just throw away what had come before it. And there were some other things in there that I'd revealed a little too much about who this character was right off the bat, and just kind of talking about he was this guy and he was going around, this is what he's doing and what he's thinking about. So I just wanted to start more uh, at an exciting, I guess, or a place with some tension in it. I wanted to open on the first line, if possible, uh, in a way that makes the reader uh, ask a question right away and feel
Hmm.
some tension at the situation. I think that it's an issue that a lot of first time writers, first time authors, early authors have an issue with, is that their story begins like a few pages in, or a page or
Hmm.
two, or 2 page in, where you can have it like right at the beginning. Just cut out some of
Yeah.
the fluff there. And that goes in with like the whole kill your darlings thing, because I
Hmm.
really liked that first section that I'd written that I cut out. I thought it was neat, and I'm like, oh, it's all scenic and neat, but it's not. And it is, but it's not that interesting the way that I
Yeah.
had it written.
Yeah.
I came to realize.
I mean, it
Uh,
was interesting. I really liked it.
well, thank you, but
But however, when I got the revised version, I was like, oh, like immediately there's tension and there's an edge to it. Um, Especially the way the story turns, because there is an edge in the story,
mhm,
which reading it the original way, which was still good, when that edge comes in, a few chapters later, there is a little bit of a disconnect. You're like, oh, this is
mhm,
the kind of story I'm reading. Whereas before it was almost like, oh, this is going to be really lighthearted. And I'm not saying that it's dark. Your story's not like, it's not what I would consider dark fantasy. Um,
gotcha.
you know, but um, but that tension and that kind of level of like what's going to happen, and oh, this world is pretty, but it's not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? It's not necessarily safe in all of the
Right,
ways you would think the world is safe in with the beginning that you had originally. Yeah.
gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I just I had in my Writers Guild, I had also recently we did a little workshop where it was about your first like 5 pages,
Mhm.
and I took the first 5 pages of a different work besides that one to be gone over. But through some of the things that we were talking about throughout that workshop, it was making me think about my first work that I just sent you the revised version of, and it made me realize some of the issues that I had in that
Mhm.
beginning chapter. So I'm glad that that's what you got out of it, because
Yeah.
that's definitely what um it's good to hear. That's kind of what I was hoping I could go for on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's still things that I was thinking about after I sent that to you just a couple days ago. I was thinking, oh man, I could have this. I'm not sure if I wanted to do it like this or I don't know, that could have been a little different. I could have changed that, or I could have deleted that sentence or left that in. But I, I'll you can just drive yourself crazy if you try to
Yeah,
work too hard for perfection because you'll never quite get there. You'll be tweaking it
exactly.
forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think at some point we have to like think about who are we making these revisions for? Is it in
mhm.
service of the characters and the story, or is it in service of like not that readers aren't important or audience is not important, but you can't make every reader or audience member happy with what you write.
Right.
Or, you know, I can watch something and think, oh, this was amazing. And then two other people will be like, that was crap.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
hated that. Like, what was the point? You know, so at some point, I think as artists, it's about servicing the story and the characters in the
Mm.
story. Like, they have to be as real to us as, like, you are to me. And it's about telling their story in a as authentic way as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's I think sometimes that artists, be it writers or whatever, artists, musicians, anything can fall victim to trying to write too much to please the audience because no matter how much broad appeal that a work has, there's nothing that everyone is going to like. Somebody's
Mm-hmm.
not going to like it. And that's, you know, uh I think something that pretty much anybody that gets into any creative
Yeah.
endeavors is going to realize pretty quick,
Yeah.
or you're going to have a hard time being in it
Yes.
because you will get criticism. Um, but yeah, trying too much to cater to the audience can be an issue. Like you said, it's good to you're trying to you're trying to give the audience your audience something that they will enjoy, obviously, but you don't always necessarily know. That's how's the way to put this. Sometimes you don't know exactly what you want until you have it. And there's times
Yeah.
that I like to try to change expectation, subvert expectations in various ways. And that's kind of become a dirty word lately, subverting, subversion of
Mm-hmm.
expectations, because a lot of people uh, in in the modern day feel like they've been duped by that in some cases. Like
Yeah.
there's, movie will there's whole ad campaigns around I can't remember what was it it's the last James Bond movie, or not the last one of the last ones, with Daniel Craig, and Christoph Waltz was in it. He was the actor. He was in Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained,
Okay.
a
Mm-hmm.
German actor, and it was pretty clear from the trailers that he was going to be this legacy character from James Bond, Blofeld. They even had him dressed like him. And throughout the press junkets, he was like, "No, I'm just this insert name here character." They have like a John Garrison or whatever, some random name for him. And then in the movie, it's revealed at some point, "Oh, it's Blofeld," and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I know." That
Right.
it was pretty obvious. And or why did I don't I there's the it can mean like lying to I think you can subvert the audience expectations without lying to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's become something that is more common now just for like shock value or to try to
Yeah.
surprise the audience. Just I think there's better ways to do it though than just a, a bait and switch, basically, which is what it
Yeah.
seems like is a really common thing to do
Mm-hmm.
uh nowadays. But and also I like to try to do it positively when I can, as far as that
Mm-hmm.
subversion of expectations. I don't want it to be like, oh man, I didn't expect that character to die, or that like Game of Thrones became
Right.
famous for doing that, killing off characters at inopportune times, and it's
Mm-hmm.
riveting. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the show for the most part until I didn't, um, but yeah, I like surprising the audience in a way that makes them smile as well.
Yeah.
That's something I like to try to do
Yeah.
when I do that.
I can see that. Yep. I can see that in your work, yeah. Because there are a couple of things that was like, oh wow, that's fun. So yeah, which of course I won't say anything about because next year maybe we'll be talking about where this is being published
That would be very
and
cool, both of us. Yeah.
who's taking it on. Yeah, that would be really cool. So yeah. Um I was since you were kind of talking about like movies and subverting expectations.
Hmm.
I listen to a bunch of different podcaster and creators.
Hmm.
And one of the comments about a particular TV show was like, oh, it was really great, but then this season came out and it was just more like slice of life. And so I just, didn't finish watching it. And
Hmm.
I thought it was very interesting because the parts of that show that they didn't like, I actually quite liked. Because you got to sit with the characters, you got to
Hmm.
learn more about their motivations, about who they are. Um, and so for me, I kind of chalked it up to, well, this person, the type of media that they like is the very plot focused type of media. They don't
Gotcha.
necessarily care necessarily about what's happening in the characters' lives. They just want the
Hmm.
action. And but I do see that there is a lot of media and a lot of books where you're reading and it feels like you're on a roller coaster. And you don't get to sit with the characters anymore. You don't get
Hmm.
to, it's just all like, oh, this happens and then that happens. And the stories are good. You, I feel like I mostly care about the main characters. But but I just often hear that word vignette or slice of life thrown around like it's a dirty word. And I
Hmm.
wanted to hear what your take on that was because I don't find that to be true.
No, I don't either. I think it's really important to have scenes like that in a book, especially if it's got a lot of action and it's a fast-paced work. Um, that's a classic like storytelling rhythm is the ability to slow it down. You wanna have your fast-paced moments, but you want your audience to be able to catch their breath as well.
Hmm.
If they're constantly just going from one thing to another, like John Wick or something like that, where it's just
Right.
going great, like something that yeah, I think that slice of life and those slower character moments are. I mean, I guess not every work needs it, but I think I really like that. I really enjoy it
Hmm.
when a work has a chance to breathe a little bit um, in between action beats. I
Yeah.
do. I think there's adventure is also um, it's more than just running. The whole run and gun aspect, where it's just
Hmm.
like you said, it's just like a roller coaster of constantly going. And yeah, that can be fun, but I think it's really important to allow the audience and the characters to kind of catch their breath sometimes,
Hmm.
and maybe I guess different strokes for different folks on some things, but and there's certain it can be overdone. Like there's a Stephen King book called The Stand.
Hmm.
That's one of his classic works. It's
Yep.
about 800 pages on the just I don't even touch the revised version. I think it's more like 1,000, but say it's 800 pages and it is really intense. Like the first third of it and the last third of it are both pretty high energy, high intensity
Hmm.
sections. And the middle of it, the middle third almost is just it gets into a slice of life section where basically the book is like it's the end of the world and this whole horrible virus kills like 99% of the world's population
Yep.
and the
Dr.
ones that are
Trips.
surviving are yeah, Captain Trips, yeah.
Captain Trips, that's it, Captain
Yep.
Trips.
And the survivors are having to deal with this the horror of this situation, and getting out of the cities and getting out of whatever situations they're in and
Hmm.
survive. And then there's some of them are good and some of them are bad, and like the good ones go over to Boulder, Colorado, because they've got these visions from from this old lady Mother Abigail, and the bad ones are going over because Randall Flagg, this evil devil Antichrist guy, is calling him out to Las Vegas, and the good and the bad people kind of separate, and then you've got just a whole section of more slice of life than you could ever imagine. And
Yeah.
he's admitted, Stephen King has admitted that it just kind of got away from him because there's chapters about, hey, let's have a committee to turn the power plants on. Oh,
Yeah.
well, everything's short-circuited because all the blenders are still plugged in and the ovens are on. So we got to have a committee to go around and turn off all the ovens. So there's a committee that did that, but then they found dead bodies. So now we need a committee that it's just
Yeah.
it's it was interesting for a while, but it just goes on and on and on and on and
Yes.
on. So there's definitely like I could see somebody have an issue with like a show. I don't know if this is the case with the one you were talking about, but if it's like one season was just pretty much an action show and then another season is just the slice of life thing, I could see people going, "Wait a minute,
Right.
where's my
Where's the
action?"
action?
So so
What's happening? Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I definitely think a balance of that is very important for like especially like in a fantasy or adventure work or something like
Hmm.
that. There are some things that benefit just from being one or the other too.
Yeah.
If something's more just a straight slice of life. That's nothing wrong with that. That's a lot of fun sometimes.
Yeah.
And then if it's just more straight adventure, but I still think I agree with you. I think the straight adventure stuff even does benefit from a few slower moments to kind of
Hmm.
make you appreciate it more in a way. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think it's bad at all to have variety there.
Yeah. No, no, I do like that. Yeah, I like slice of life sometimes. And well,
Yeah.
well actually I would say I think I like slice of life in in various degrees in almost everything that I like to read or consume. So
Mhm.
um there's a TV show I'm really into right now and it's called From, and it's excellent. I love it. It's great. It's from the creators of Lost and Fringe, and one of the writers or directors from the Institute is involved in the show, and some other things. But there's a lot of intensity, a lot of mystery. Oh, bless you. And a
Right.
lot of uh just tension, and bad things are happening and people are dying, and
Hmm.
they're trying to get out of this place that they're stuck in. But then there are these episodes where not much is really happening. There's just about them going about their day, and like how do they grow food, and where are they going to how are they going to weather the winter, things like
Hmm.
that, which
Yeah.
I find is really, I like those episodes because you kind of get to know different characters, you kind of see them interact with each other. Because then when a situation happens that's intense, it makes sense that this main character responds this way, because you
Hmm.
see that in their everyday life this is how they respond to different situations, even when it's not like life or death, you
Right.
know? And so it kind of builds out the world and makes it feel really real. And there's very few shows especially that I can watch. I don't know if you've had this where you can watch a show and you forget that you're watching a show, and because you're so invested in the characters, it feels
Hmm.
like you're just watching something about these people that are real.
Right.
So there are very few shows like that, and I think From
Hmm.
is one of those for me anyway. Battlestar Galactica, the 2004
Mm.
version, was another one for me, and yeah, even Lost. I liked Lost. um there were things about it that I hated, but in general, like overall, when I look at it, they felt like real people making real
Hmm.
choices that
Yeah.
were really stupid sometimes. But yeah,
Is it a network show or is it on like a streaming service or a
it's on
cable or
MGM, so it's streaming.
okay.
Yeah. It's
Um,
got Harold. I can never remember his name. I'm so bad with people's names. I'll tell you now. I'll look it up. He's an amazing actor. Um, Harold Perrineau. Plays the main character, or one of the main characters. He was in Lost. He was in, I don't know if you saw the Laz's Romeo and Juliet, the 1990 something
Mhm.
version with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah.
He played Mercutio.
Okay.
Yeah, so he plays, a lot of, I think he has a background in theater. He's a really
Hmm.
good actor.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the show is really good. Yep.
Nice.
So a little
Yeah.
tangent.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I like shows. I feel like there that a lot of shows used to that kind of used to be universal in uh TV shows is that they would have those type of episodes. They used to call those filler episodes.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a lot more common, I think, because there were like on network TV shows, they
Hmm.
have like 24 to 26
Yeah.
episodes a season. So you kind of have to have episodes that like for number one for the budget of the show, they
Yeah.
can't afford I really love the uh whole 90s and early 2000s era of Star Trek from the Next Generation up through Enterprise. And those shows all had like 24 episodes a season, and
Hmm.
you can't have like a world universe ending threat or some kind of
Right.
crazy like battles every episode. There's some episodes that are pretty small,
Hmm.
and just focus on a couple characters maybe, or just focus on there's some episodes that there's never they never fire a shot from any of their weapons, and some
Right.
of those are some of the best episodes. Uh, I think that in one of my biggest issues with a lot of modern TV is I guess for budgetary reasons
Hmm.
or what I'm not exactly sure all the reasons, but especially on streaming is where it really seems to pick up like this is instead of 24 episodes, you'd have 12 episodes a
Hmm.
season and then 10 episodes a season.
Yes.
And now a lot of shows you're lucky if you get
Eight.
eight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that though, there's 8 episodes for the season, but there's then 2 years instead of one between
Hmm.
seasons. So production time has increased as much as cost has.
Hmm.
So there's been a number of shows like Westworld. I remember when that came out. I really enjoyed
Okay.
season one. And then I never watched it after that because it took like 2 or 3 years for season
Right.
two to come out.
Then
And by
it's
that
like,
point, I was
oh,
just like, oh, season two's out? Oh, okay. Well, I'll get to
yeah.
that eventually.
Right.
And then I never
Exactly.
did.
Yeah. You kind of forget about it.
And and yeah, like it. So that's an issue. I don't like that. And I also don't like that those shorter season runs don't allow for as much time for what we're talking about, for just
Hmm.
the filler episodes that are just more
Right.
slice of life that really do help foster like a bond with these characters and make
Hmm.
you really care more about them. I think a lot of
Right.
times when whatever's happening to them, whether they get killed off or something bad
Hmm.
happens to them, or they're in a rough situation, like you can associate more with them. I think if you have more time um, for that sort of thing to kind of
Yeah.
get a feel for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I like vignettes and slice of life or those slower
Hmm.
parts of the novels. Even in I remember reading that and in the stand. And yeah, it did go on for a while, but I did appreciate that attention to detail.
Oh
Because a
yeah.
lot of times like, people you don't even think about that. It's and so when you talk about like subverting expectations, you're reading this book where this like literally good and evil are battling each other through the survivors of this disease.
Hmm.
And so there are cosmic implications in this story, but then there's everyday life that has
Hmm.
to happen in order for this cosmic event to play out because people
Hmm.
have to live and people have to people.
Yeah.
And so that was a big like subversion of expectation because I guess somewhere in the back of your mind, if you're reading a book that leaves that kind of stuff out, you finish reading it, you're like, oh, that was good. But it's not something that kind of sticks with you, right?
Right.
Because the world wasn't very real, didn't have deep roots. But that
Hmm.
story feels very real and has so many deep roots in it because you did take the time to realize, oh crap, we've got to go through thousands of homes in this city and turn off all the electronics, pull out
Hmm.
all of the bodies, dispose of them
Hmm.
in one way or another, clean things up. Like this, like everyday things that have to happen. Um, like one of the things that always gets me in shows, like where they like show like animals and like they have milking cows and things like that, but then there's no like calves. And it's like, well, there has to be a step before they have milk, you know. So you're not just going to have cows who's not going to give you milk without having had a calf first, you know, or they have
Right.
to have times where they calf where they dry out. They're just not going to have this endless supply of milk. They'll
Hmm.
die. So yeah, so just like little things like that that really like show that the writers have a respect for the world that they're building, which is, you know,
Hmm.
which I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with the stand, it's like even at the end of the world, life must go on. Life,
Yep.
you gotta put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Yep.
So yeah, but I do like that aspect of it. Yeah, I was criticizing it, but you're right. It, it
Yeah, yeah.
is it is
I
something
don't
that you
think you
don't
were
often.
criticizing it.
Oh, I
Yeah,
was.
I
I
just
was definitely criticizing it in that book because I do think that it is interesting, but I do think that could have been trimmed down a little bit. But
yeah.
um, you know,
But it's
what
Stephen
are you
King.
gonna
Who's
do?
going to
I
tell
don't. I
him?
don't. Yeah, I don't envy the job of Stephen King's editor because what are you gonna do? Tell Stephen King he needs to. I don't know. I
Right.
think you'd be in a weird situation with that
Yeah.
because he is so good
Yeah. I think there are
and so
three,
proficient.
but there's probably like three writers whose editors probably don't really have much to do.
Hmm.
I would probably say Brandon Sanderson, Stephen King, and Dean Koontz.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe
yeah, I can
Margaret
see that.
Atwood. Um, maybe I could add her to that one. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think those are probably the ones that would come to mind. They're like, yeah, whatever you write.
Right. It's like, what do I do? What am I even supposed to do with this?
Right.
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah. Do you write any short stories?
I would like to. I have a few in mind. I've tried to do it before, but never could quite get one done. But
Mm-hmm.
often it was like when I try to write a short story, I didn't have that much of a plan going into it. I do
Yeah.
have some planned out right now. Uh, but God, there's been a couple times that I would the book that you read, the manuscript that you read was
Mm-hmm.
originally supposed to be a short story or like a paragraph, a summary, just but it ended.
Mine
I
too.
overwrite, so I overwrote that one a little bit. You would think it would be easier, and I think just a lot of people intuitively would just think, oh, short story's got to be a lot easier than
Mm-hmm.
writing a novel because it's like, anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 words or whatever
Mm-hmm.
versus 50, 100, 150 and up. Um, but if you're used to writing in that long form,
Mm-hmm.
it can really be hard to get those same beats out in a shorter workspace. Like, because you still have to hit those same
Yeah.
story beats that you would
Mm-hmm.
normally take a lot longer to do and a lot more build up. And it takes a special talent, I think, to be able to do that. I think I'd like to develop that talent. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have it. I don't have it right now. Yeah, I, yeah, short stories are something that I would like to, because I think it would lend itself especially to fantasy and like my world or this and that. Even if I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to publish them, I would like to do it just to be able to get the form down.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard for me to get it done in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I find that short stories actually are harder to write. So
Hmm.
I like committed myself to writing a piece of fiction or poetry every month for my Substack.
Oh well.
And it's what is it? It's April now. And so I started two short stories. One was going really well, and then like I felt like I can't tell this story in 5,000 words. Like I need much longer. And
Uh-huh.
so then it becomes not a short story anymore. It becomes maybe a serialized novella or something like that.
Right.
Um, or just a two-part or something like that. And so then
Yeah.
I started writing another one, and I think I'm almost there, but it's really hard to know, like, do you care about this character and what's happening in this story? Because I feel like it's just this
Mhm.
little tiny piece of a world that feels very big, like this one
Right.
thing is happening and I'm focusing on this one thing. Um, so yeah, I just find short stories actually harder to write than long form stories. And yeah, it
Yeah,
takes
that makes
longer to
sense.
write 2,000 words than it does to write. Like if I were to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to work on my novel, I could probably write 10,000 words in, a week.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to get into. I need to start reading some more of the old classics because like one that always comes to mind is more of a horror. It doesn't seem that way at first, but I think we all read it in school, like an English class was The Lottery. I can't remember the author's
Yes.
name. That is a perfect example
Hmm.
of subversion of expectations
Yes.
in a drastic way,
Hmm.
in a that sticks with you. And that's got to be. I don't. I'd have to look it up, but I would imagine that's less than 5,000 words. It's not very
Yeah.
long,
Not very
but
long at
they
all.
are. It really does everything it's supposed to do. It pulls you in
Hmm.
and really makes you feel it. It
Yeah.
makes you feel these characters, this town, and this weird thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
And it feels kind of slice of life, right? Until
yeah.
like you're like, oh wow, yeah. And that's what I like, yeah, about stories like that. Chopin is a really good short story writer. She writes a lot of like women's literature.
Okay.
She had one that was really really intense. And I guess I might have to tell my daughter to put trigger warning up here. Um, so she writes this story about this family in Louisiana and they live in the bayou, and she has a baby, and the baby comes out dark skinned. And they're like, her husband and her are going back and forth, and he thinks that she cheated on him. And she's like, but my skin is lighter than yours. I don't understand. We're both white. I don't know how this happened. And she ends up doing self exit and infanticide because it's at the time where if you have a mixed
Mhm.
baby, like that's bad, and they didn't even like the idea of people getting a divorce or a woman,
Yeah.
so like just societal norms were very strict just all around. But then it turns out he finds out that his mother, someone on his side is African,
Mm.
and like his father or somebody was telling him like, yes, I loved her. That's why I got married. And, and I think it was a grandparent or something like that. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly. And then he was just completely devastated because his wife and his child were gone, and he completely blamed her, and it was his side of the family. And of course he realizes there was nothing to blame anybody on. This was a child of
Right.
love. Yeah. So
Ugh.
and yeah, so it was she writes these stories that are like, you're starting off and it just feels like this like normal kind of, there's some tension, there's a little, um I don't know if it's romance, but like literature type of tension in a story, and then like there's like kind of a twist that feels like horror, to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Um,
Pretty
so
horrific.
yeah, and then she did that in like, maybe 5,000 words.
Yeah,
It wasn't very long at all. Yeah.
that's
So
skill.
to write like that is amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's amazing to be able to get all that into a short space. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a skill I'd like to develop. But I don't I don't yet have it.
yeah. Yeah. Me neither. I don't think so.
It sounds
I
like you've
just
got it more than me.
I keep
You're actually
keep
writing them.
writing them, and then we'll see what happens.
Hey, if you've got any written at all, you're way ahead of me.
What do you do for self-care when you're done? I guess we're never quite done writing. But like, I think you submitted your novel. I submitted
Mhm.
mine. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not writing anything big. Like besides working on short stories or little journaling stuff, I'm not writing my next novel yet. I'm
Okay.
thinking about it in my mind, but I'm not writing it yet. So what do you do to like kind of decompress? Like what kind of self-care do you do for yourself?
I like to try to take in other media when I'm not writing, when I'm not doing that, like either um reading or watching or rewatching stuff that I enjoy, like
Mm-hmm.
movies or old shows or whatever. Um, Reading bits on nonfiction, sometimes some history stuff,
Mm-hmm.
especially with since I've gotten into writing fantasy, I like reading stuff about the Middle Ages, medieval Europe,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from the 11 to 1400s and such, and earlier, little little later too sometimes. But um, music, I really am a big fan. I've got a pretty big record collection, so
Mm-hmm.
I like
Oh,
listening to
very cool.
old vinyl. And some of that kind of will inspire things for a scene or a
Mm-hmm.
character or something, or make me think about something. But uh, yeah, I try to. Oh, and I like taking a like a. I wish I had a sauna or something like that. I need to. I've thought about getting one of those. Like on Amazon, they have like those $100
Yeah.
pop-up saunas and stuff where it
Mm-hmm.
comes with a little camp chair to sit in.
Yeah.
I might do something like that because I'd really enjoy that, I think. But as far as like in between writing, I do take longer breaks than I should sometimes because I feel weird if I go like a couple weeks without writing anything, I
Mm-hmm.
start feeling
Yeah.
like I am just kind of wasting my time and
Mm-hmm.
not I'm just feeling
Not
kind of
doing
listless.
something.
So
Yes.
I've been trying to make myself write something either for my next work or my just the history of the world I live in because everything I write takes place in the same fantasy world.
Okay.
Thus far. I have some ideas for some non-fantasy books, but I might end up having to do those under if I take off with this under this name, I might have to do those under a pseudonym or something, because from
Mm-hmm.
what I understand, they don't publishers don't like to have mixed genre authors under the
Yeah, they
same pen
feel like
name.
it yeah, it's what's the word? It it's confusing
Hmm.
for audiences as we
Which makes
say this. So
sense.
I'll have to edit this out. I've have my real name here instead of my Victoria Camden name.
Oh,
I'll have my daughter edit that out.
nice. Just slice off the bottom of the screen. Uh, but uh, but yeah, yeah, I get that too. That makes sense. Because it would be weird if it's like the new noir detective tale by Brandon Sanderson. It'd be like, well,
What?
what? Okay,
Yeah,
it'd be odd. I don't get me wrong.
yeah,
Sounds interesting,
yeah.
um, but yeah, everything that I've done takes place in that same world. So I try to develop that world more. And I really do feel kind of a sense of not urgency, I wouldn't say, but I want to get up to a certain point because like I'd said before, the stuff that I'm writing now is technically in my mind prequel stuff to the original works that I had started on, original books that I had started on that are a lot longer. They're going to be more like over 100,000 word,
Right.
traditional length fantasy novels. And it's a story that each one of these, a trilogy that I have planned that will
Hmm.
each installment will take place 5 years apart in this world. And I already have like the end of book two. The end of book two in this fantasy thing was one of the earliest things I wrote in the
Okay.
story after I came up with an outline for that first for the first one I was originally going to do. And I want to get to that moment so bad that I've got a lot of stuff to do right to get there because now that I'm on this early section, I
Right.
do want to keep. I don't want to jump back ahead and start
Yeah.
writing that again. I do want to get there naturally because I think it'll help from a characterization standpoint because a lot of it does deal with the same characters
Hmm.
and groups of characters. But I just want to get there so bad, and I don't want to just put it off and not do it. So like I
Right.
feel kind of this. constant
Pressure.
gnawing
Yes.
of you need to work on this to get to
Yep.
that eventually, or you're not going to get to it. So
Yep. Yeah.
I'm working on it. It takes a while,
It's
but
there. Yep. Yep.
yeah.
I think that's great. But I find that I have that same sense of pressure. It's kind
Hmm.
of like a tightness. You need to start writing, you need to start writing. Um, and so with the next novel that I'm writing, which is I've got it, I have the blurb written out. I know the
Hmm.
overall of the story. I need to do some world building a little bit around the power system in that
Hmm.
story. It's a very like nature based type of system. So um and there's a war and all of these little things are happening around this
Right.
one event. But then there's also the second part of my trilogy that's like, okay, you need to flesh out this character and I want you to put this in here. Like my brain keeps telling me like there's things that need to be done for this story as well.
Right.
So it's really sometimes I feel like I'm running on this hamster wheel and somebody keeps throwing balls at me that I'm supposed to try to catch.
Right.
So it's just yeah, it's hard. But I'm glad I took the time off because I've been working so much this last couple of weeks. I don't think I could have
Hmm.
handled writing. I don't think
Yeah.
I would have produced anything that I would have felt happy with.
I
Yeah.
know the feeling. Yeah, and I say I try to do something every day, but I don't a lot of times. And like, it is good to do that. Like that's not a bad rhythm. Like there's a lot of writers that do set that goal for themselves to if always constantly write something every day, no matter what. And
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. But I do agree that I think that it is important to take breaks and stuff sometimes because if I hadn't done that, even if it like kind of, bugs me when I am. I'll get that little bug in me. Um, Often if I get that, I'll just go back and reread something that I've already written and work on it and see if I
Hmm.
can see if there's anything wrong or see if I feel good
Right.
about it. Um, and that helps a lot too. But I think you need to give yourself time and think about stuff and either one things I really like to do to decompress is spend time outside in nature
Yeah.
without anything, without music or podcast, no extra input, just kind of
Yeah.
thinking and existing. And I think moments like that can help really foster creativity and fuel creative
Yeah.
impulses like that. But because we might have talked about this before, but I think it is important that we be bored from time to time, just to where we're not
Yes.
constantly taking in input, that we just have time to think and
Mhm.
because that's where creativity, I believe that boredom is the seedbed of creative thinking.
Yeah.
Because, what else are you going to do if you're just sitting around
Right.
not doing anything? You
Exactly.
got to think. Uh,
I agree. I agree.
so a lot of times when I'm driving, I'll
Yeah.
not have music on or anything like that. I'll
Hmm.
just think.
Yeah.
And then if I have an idea, like at a stoplight, I'll turn on, a audio recording or something and write something down. But uh, Steve, I like to try to keep stuff without writing it down sometimes, just because I'm afraid I'll forget it if I write it down. Um, that's not
Oh,
all the time.
interesting.
That's not all the times. It's hard to explain which ideas I use that with and which ones I don't. Because some of them, like if I have an idea that I really like, I'll write it down. But there's like conversations between characters I've had in my head for
Hmm.
like months before I ever got to the point, like in the story that I've
Ah.
written it down. And it's a wonder that I didn't forget it. I don't know why it is that some things like I need to write down and some things I don't. But Stephen King, I think I think it was in writing, said that you shouldn't write things down, ideas
Yeah.
down, because if it's an idea worth keeping, you won't forget it. And
Right.
if
It'll
you
stick with
forget
you.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. My great
Stephen King
grandmother.
does not go through menopause.
Right, yeah. Stephen King also is a professional writer that does not have a job or anything else to do other than think
Do
about
other than right,
writing.
exactly. Yeah.
So that's a little different for him to,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that works for you, Stephen, but this is that's your thing. You can afford to do that.
Right.
Both literally and metaphorically, you can afford to do that. But um yeah, I mean, God, I hate to drag him again, but I mean, he does have some stinkers and stuff too. So maybe that is a
Yeah.
good thing for him to weed out good ideas and bad ideas because
Right.
based on some of the things I've read as a fan, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, not everything. Yeah, well, and I think
that's one you shouldn't have written down.
this is true. I would love to get to the point where people are like, yeah, all three of those short stories were great, but that one sucked.
Right?
I'll be like, okay, I'll take 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, if anybody with the output he has is going to have some,
Yeah.
we don't all bat 1,000. But I think that was it. I think it was my great grandma had something like that. Like my mom said that when she was a kid, like if she forgot something, my grandma said, "Oh, it must have been a lie." So I guess that's the same mentality.
Was
But
it?
no,
Mine used to say, it must not have been that important.
right. But yeah, I think yeah, I don't know where I was getting. Oh, writing things down. Yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's a weird thing. It's almost kind of just a complacency times that I don't sometimes, but I don't know why, but certain ideas seem to just latch on
Keep coming back.
more
Yeah.
so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, certain ones seem to like, oh gosh, I need to write that down or I'm gonna forget it. Like I need to go and do that now. But then some I don't even have to worry about that with. For some reason, they just feel like they take hold.
Hmm.
And even if they're not constantly in my mind, it'll like you said, it keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I don't know why that is. I wish I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I think it's just a
'Cause-
creative mind.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just your subconscious way of making sure that you get it out because you're a writer and that's what you do.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to ask you something and it totally went out of my brain. So just talk, it'll come back to me.
All right. Yeah, I think yeah, as far as like I was talking about, being bored and just being outside, that's one of my self-care things uh for in between writing projects. There's been a number of things that I've held off on writing that I've been so glad I did because just when I was out, picking up sticks in the yard or driving, I'd have an idea and like, oh no, this is how this works and this can work
Hmm.
this way. Or I was working on some backstory of the world and I realized something about a character through that. I was like, oh man, I'm glad I know this now. I'm glad I didn't,
Yeah.
proceed with the direction I was going to because this is a lot better. So, yeah, if you got to give stuff time to breathe, or you'll end up you might end up having ideas later that you wished you had
Yeah.
given time to include or
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Not being in too much of a rush is,
right,
yeah, it's like finding that balance. Um,
yeah,
when you are talking about like world building, and because I know
hmm
you said you've already know what's going to happen at the end of book 2
hmm
of that first trilogy.
yeah.
And so do you know how the trilogy ends already? Or are you more of a discovery writer in that way? And how do you plot specific? I guess as specifically as you want. How do you plot?
I don't. I know roughly how it's going to end, or where the state of things will be at the end,
Hmm.
rather. I don't know exactly how certain things are going to play out, but I have a pretty good idea for how I want this whole uh, story, saga, whatever, to end.
Hmm.
Um, I am largely a discovery writer, but I guess it's probably about half and half. And I think it really is with a lot of people more than people like to separate themselves into plotters and pantsers more because I think most everybody is has a lot more of the other than they would think they do. Because
Yeah.
with plotting, that's still a form of discovery writing. You're still having to
Yeah.
figure things out, you know.
Hmm.
So you're still having to. There's no, paint by the numbers book that you can go through to figure out.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong, some people do that when they plot. They like to, okay, they have like a beat sheet, and they'll have, I need to hit this beat and this beat and this beat
Hmm.
and this beat and this beat. And that is not how I write at all.
Me neither. Yeah.
I've looked at beat sheets that, like I wrote the most recent book that I wrote in this world manuscript that I'm revising right now. It's a mystery, fantasy mystery, more than, the other one I did, which is straight fantasy adventure. This is like fantasy adventure mystery. So I did see a beat sheet for mystery and thriller books, cozy mysteries,
Hmm.
and this work that I do does hit most of those beats. There's a few that it did make me think, okay, I probably should tweak a few things actually because of that, but it does hit, where the who did it, and oh, you think it's this one person, but oh, here's a twist, and that
Right.
person, and it doesn't happen exactly like that, the actions or whatever, but it's these beats that are expected for this genre.
Hmm.
Um, and it can be helpful to do that, but for me, I like to do it more intuitively, just kind of
Yeah.
feel the way the story needs to go.
Hmm.
Um, Usually I will have an idea of what the ending is going to be when I start a story. I like to kind of know where the end is going to be.
Hmm.
Um, but how I get there is going to I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes I know pretty well, or sometimes I have a pretty good idea,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I don't at all, and I just have to figure it out as I go. Um, there's a moment in the climax of like one uh the book of mine that you've read that I had this scene in my head. I wasn't exactly sure was how I was going to get there, but I had this like
Hmm.
moment in my head really early on when I started writing the story, and I figured out partway through, oh, this is what it's going to be. This
Hmm.
is how it work. Um, so I don't even know how to say it honestly, as far as how I do it. I just do it. I don't, I
Right.
don't, I just try to. I try to let the dialogue flow. Usually, like when I'm writing a scene, I'll know about when the scene's done by the way the dialogue's going or the way the thoughts of somebody are going, because I like to try to end a chapter um, which kind of closes off that scene that I'm in. Sometimes I'll have multiple scenes per chapter, so I'll break it up and this and that. But the way I like to end the chapter is to end a scene on a way that makes you go, "Oh, interesting. What's next?"
What's
Like
next?
yeah,
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I try to do that. And that kind of leads me in certain directions sometimes that I didn't think I was going to go. Like, oh, actually, I think, oh, this chapter's about over. Oh, okay. Well, let's go this
Hmm.
way then. And that's um, kind of how I'll do it. Like, I'll have plot beats, not necessarily from like a beat sheet,
Right.
but that I have in my head, or like I think this is going to happen at this point, this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. But I have to find my way through to those events
Yeah.
by how the characters decide to do things sometimes.
Yes.
Like sometimes
Yeah.
my characters will get away from me, and
Hmm.
I used to think that was kind of stupid when people would say that. It's like how's that? But no, it really
That
does
is,
happen. Where
yeah.
it's like, oh no, this guy wouldn't say this. This is what he would say here,
Right.
and this is what would happen here. Oh, okay, so this is what's going to happen. Like it's out of your hands at some point. Like what I said, it's
Yes.
hard to say that I don't know exactly. I just do it. Isn't me saying, oh, it's just comes naturally, and I'm so good that no, it's like literally I don't know what's happening. I'm just there.
Right.
It felt like I feel like when I'm really on a roll, it feels like I'm just transcribing somebody
Yes.
else's words or something. I'm pulling something. I like to
Yep.
say I'm reaching up and pulling something from the
Yep.
creative energy flow that's going through or something, and
Yep.
I'm tapping
I
into
like, yeah.
something.
I like to think of it as like it's another a person's story from another alt universe that
Yeah,
they have gifted me this story with that
right.
they want to tell.
Hmm.
And yeah. So when it's good, when it's flowing, it's great. It's
Hmm.
great. When it's hard, Like when you don't know how to get to the next part, you're not exactly sure what that is. Just it's kind of a feeling like I'm failing.
Yeah,
What's happening?
right. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
So
rough.
yeah,
The
um,
ups and downs.
ups and downs of writing, but I love it. It's great.
Oh yeah.
I could not live without it. Actually, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, me neither. It's a big part of my life now. I'm really glad. I couldn't imagine not doing it at this point. This
Yeah,
I really enjoy getting these stories getting these stories down. And
yeah,
hopefully somebody enjoys them, but I appreciate uh your compliments on that, but
yeah.
I just really want him I really want him down. The reason I started writing is because I felt like it's not just like I have stuff to say, and I do, but it's like it's more I have emotions and feelings that I want to share. I want like when
Mm-hmm.
I was it was uh the one of the things that I'd read that really got me into wanting to write was The Hedge Knight by George R. R. Martin. I think I said that
Mm-hmm.
before. And it is just so it's in a dark world, but it's so light and hopeful, and it reminded me of those stories that I'd read when I was about knights and stuff when I was like
Yeah.
in middle school and younger, and like Wood Alexander, Prydain Chronicles, Westmark stuff. Great young adult children's book and young adult author
Mm-hmm.
from the mid 20th century. But it gave me that feeling again, and it really made me want to feel that more and for other people to feel that or for like it
Mm-hmm.
made me want to write a story that gave me that kind of feeling and hopefully give somebody else if they read it
Yeah.
that kind of just a thrill of adventure and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hopefulness and I don't know, just kind of a bright world. Not to say that there's not some dark aspects in it too, just
Right.
like, like I wouldn't call the term dark fantasy is really prevalent now, and like, but you would like there Lord of the Rings per se
Mm-hmm.
like Tolkien, you would never call that a dark fantasy
Right.
novel, but man, it's really
It's
dark in some
dark.
places. There's
Yeah,
some
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
just the whole idea of what's going on. It
You
is
wouldn't call it horror fantasy either, but there's
right,
plenty of horror within
exactly,
that.
yeah. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I do definitely have some darkness and dark things in my world, but I like the lighthearted and
Hmm.
bright aspects of it as well. That's kind of like what I try to get
Yeah.
out of it.
No,
And I
yeah.
do know what you're gonna say.
No, no, no. So I was going to say, sorry, that even in your revised version, there's never a point in the story where it feels like there's hopelessness.
Oh, okay,
And
gotcha.
so um, there are rumors that George R. R. Martin is going to finish A Song of Ice and Fire.
Hmm.
I have very mixed feelings. Like, am I going to buy that book or not? Because as wonderful as his world is crafted, and I'm sure he's going to do a much better job than HBO did in ending his story.
Right.
um, I'm a little scared to to read it because
Yeah.
I don't like to immerse myself in something that feels completely hopeless.
Right.
And so I feel like there's so much of that already in the world,
Hmm.
that there has to be some, for me, fantasy, and this is my own personal opinion, that fantasy should have a measure of doing better, of being
Hmm.
able to overcome,
Yeah.
because it's fantasy. And
Right.
it's like, this is a dark world, but we can make of this world what we want. We are telling our own
Hmm.
stories.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, quantum mechanics to do this within our stories, you know.
Right.
And so why not make a better outcome in
Hmm.
stories and have little threads of hope throughout.
Yeah. I know he said he wants to have it be it's going to be kind of a bittersweet ending, I think is the way he put it. Um, I get that. I totally do because like sometimes, and he said like I believe he said that there's going to be characters that were alive in the show that will be dead in the book by the end, and vice versa. Characters that were
Hmm.
dead in the show that will be alive. Um, and I understand, you know, the how powerful like an important and impactful character's death can be,
Hmm.
but I don't. I'd like to in my own work, I'd like to lean more towards sweet than bitter. I don't really want a
Hmm.
bitter ending in any way. And
Yeah.
you can do, and I'm not to say that you just want just a perfect cheesy Disney ending
Right.
or whatever, but you can I know what you mean about being kind of worried about his work. And the thing that worries me about it is that Winds of Winter book that supposedly is going to come out at some point. That's still the second to the last book. He's got one more
One more.
after
Yeah.
that.
That's right.
And it's been what, 15 years or something like that? 17, I don't know how long. Too long. I think it would my theory is that he might be done with the whole thing
Right.
and that he is just waiting until he passes and just has it released posthumously.
Hmm.
I think that would be pretty funny for one, like him being like, "Ha, you guys were worried I wouldn't finish it before I died, but here you go,
It's all
suckers.
done.
Here
I
it's all
don't doubt
done."
that he's already written it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, um, it's kind of a hard thing to have a big spotlight on you in
Hmm.
that way where everyone is like anticipating something and you already
Hmm.
know out the gate that even if it's just 25% of your audience is not going to like it. Like,
Right. Yeah.
it's like, and then there's nothing
And
you can do about it because some people just will not like something to not like it. Like,
sure. Yeah. There's
no,
haters.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it. Like if he's telling the truth and he hasn't written um anything basically in this amount of time in the past 5 years or so, especially, um, I get it. Like
I have no
I
problem making my own ending.
right, yeah, yeah. Because
No problem
I've
making up my own ending.
yeah, same. I have had issues before, always about procrastination and procrastinating. Is oh, I'll do that another time, or I'll do that another time. Um, I try to make that not a thing with my writing, and
Hmm.
that's one reason I've been able to actually get it as much done as I have is because I don't. Anytime I think, oh, I'll do that later, it's like I can go ahead and do a little now.
Hmm.
Um, but I can only imagine because a lot, I guess it's common knowledge, but he wasn't his first success or major success in writing wasn't writing fantasy or novels or sci-fi. He did write a lot of sci-fi early on in the 70s and 80s and some fantasy, but he really hit it big on the Beauty and the Beasts television series with Ron Perlman and uh, Sarah Connor. I can't remember her name.
Yes, Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton. Linda
Yes,
Hamilton.
I love
Beauty
that
and the
show.
Beast.
Yes.
Yes, and that was he was the like he might have been the showrunner on it. He was the head writer. I know that on that
Yeah.
show,
I did
and
not know that. How did I not
yeah,
know that?
yep,
It's one of my favorite shows.
and so he really likes TV and likes TV writing, and he hasn't written a bunch of like the episodes for these A Song of Ice and Fire television shows, but he's been pretty involved with at least some aspects of the shows. And that was something he's always wanted to do, from what I understand, is be a
Hmm.
screenwriter. So the fact that his baby, this series that he's been working on since the early '90s, is has finally gotten this level of respect and adoration and
Hmm.
love, and people love the story so much. I get it that he hasn't done much because he's been going. He almost
It's like he did what he set out to do,
yeah, he's
almost.
got it
Yeah.
going and everything. And I know that I think he really lost steam once he realized he wasn't gonna beat the show. Once he realized that the show was gonna come out before he finished
Hmm.
the series, he stopped caring as much, I think.
Yeah.
And he's been working on so much else
Hmm.
other than the main series
Well,
because
he
because
wrote the
it's
Hedge
more
Knight. Sorry.
Huh? No, what are you saying?
I said he wrote The Hedge Knight after, correct?
He wrote The Hedge Knight in 97. It was between books one and two, I think,
Okay.
of A Song of Ice and Fire. And there's two more of those Duncan Egg stories. There's the Sworn Sword and the Mystery Knight. And then he said he's got about a dozen of those total he wants to write.
Mhm.
I'd be great with that, honestly. I love those. But he wrote on Fire and Blood, which was the um, basis for the House of the Dragon show, and a lot of us, it's like a history book in that world. He's going to have a sequel to that he wants to come out. He probably wants to have that come out before House of the Dragon ends,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I understand because it is more. It seems like he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's an old guy, and he's
Just
like
writing what he wants to write.
he's
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 living
do
his
yeah
life.
he's doing what he wants to do. He's going and overseeing stuff about these shows based on his work. I can only imagine how fulfilling that must feel to him.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of those that's in the camp of, hey, old man, you better write this before you die. I mean, I'd be cool if he did. I more want him to for him though at this point because it's sad to me just thinking of it as if it was myself. If I had been working on for 35, 40 years on this one work that was going to be like my life's work and my biggest legacy.
Hmm.
Um, to leave it unfinished is just something that would bother me really
Hmm.
bad. Because it is going to tarnish his legacy. It's going to be something that people are always going to go, well, we never finished the series. So that sucks. I hope he finishes it because it would be fulfilling for him, I think,
Hmm.
if he did. And I would just be sad for him if he didn't, because it sucks to go through all
Yeah.
that and to not be able to complete it. And then,
Hmm.
I mean, he said that he's not going to have anybody write it after he dies,
Okay.
if to finish it. But I believe Robert Jordan said the same thing about the Wheel of Time. And as he was coming toward the end and that
Hmm.
became a reality, he
Yeah.
wanted to, I think he had his wife pick his successor. I don't think
Yeah. Yeah.
he,
And she was his editor too.
yeah,
And I think that's how they met. She was editing his work from the beginning.
gotcha.
And he had it written. He had it obviously not everything, but he had
Mhm.
it plotted. He had all the
Right.
scenes. He knew how it was going to end. As a matter of fact, he said that he knew how it was going to end at the very beginning. He
Hmm.
just thought he was going to be able to do it in 3 books.
Right.
And it just took
Instead of
him,
12.
yeah, it took him much, what was this, 14 actually, I think.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
13, 14, yeah, 14. Um, and um, and it just took him much longer to get to that point than he thought
Hmm.
it was going to. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimate discovery writer
Yeah.
right there.
It's
Yeah.
great. But yeah, it's just to get to your point, to get to that point where you're just like, I don't know. And the thing is, if that's the case, I hope he does decide to pick some type of succession plan or something for
Hmm.
it because I know, it's like, oh, it's going to be in my will. It's going to be this or that, or, I don't know. Once you're gone, whoever has the rights, it's going to be really, really hard for, I don't know if it's his wife or whoever else is going to have him to pass up somebody pulling up a truckload of gold bars, to their house
Hmm.
saying, hey, will you let us take care of this, let us
Right.
steward this. Um, somebody's going to finish it at some point, I think, if
Yeah.
if he doesn't. So I hope he does, or I hope he picks someone to, just for the sake of just for the sake of the integrity of his work,
Yeah.
because it is really impressive
Hmm.
what he's been
Yeah.
able to
He
do.
is, yeah, an amazing writer. No, no shade on anything. I mean, he writes dark topics and some
Hmm.
of it's really hard to read. Um, but he's an amazing writer. His descriptions are phenomenal. His world
Hmm.
building is incredible. I mean, yeah, think about the amount of thought that goes into just the minor details of his world.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah. Um,
and he's wonderful at something that I cannot do like he does for sure is um just a wall of text of character dialogue, not just back and forth character dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
but I tend to try to break up when somebody's talking with actions and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
action beats. Sometimes he is the king of having just a page and a half of like one character talking about and just
Mm-hmm.
describing something to another character without ever breaking to be like
Yeah.
did this or that. It's just him, it's just a guy talking or a girl talking
Yeah.
for like 400 words.
And it's
And
engaging.
yeah, and it's just yeah, the whole time you're like, "Well, is this the same?" You
Yeah.
realize like, "Oh my God, oh wow."
I feel like
Makes you think.
dialogue is my weakest, my weakest
I
point
feel
of writing.
I I always have to go back and rewrite my dialogue.
Hmm.
Usually, very few occasions has it been the final version in my rough draft.
Hmm.
Usually I rewrite it more than a few times too to get it
Yeah.
right. So I like having a rhythm to my dialogue. Like
Hmm.
if it sometimes like if like a sentence is too short or something, like I'll have an idea down that I want of what I want them to say, but something about the rhythm of it has to land right, or it just
Yeah.
bothers me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
something it's not um doesn't flow right. It's not
Hmm.
doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound I don't know about real, but uh a lot of dialogue. There's like a poetry to
Hmm.
to writing dialogue, I think, to make it flowing well. I'm not talking about just like rhyming or whatever, but
No, but yeah,
I think
yeah.
it needs to hit certain beats.
Yes.
And it's hard to, I like this again, it's something I can't really explain, but it's just kind of a intuition
Yeah,
that you
go
kind of
back and
just have
play
to
with it. Go
feel.
back and play with
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just write, I'll just put like C in what they say, D what they say. I'll just write it almost
Hmm.
like it's bullet points. And then I'll go
Yeah.
back and I'll add in he said, she thought about it. Then I'll go
Hmm.
back and add in little scene descriptors. Like it's just like all these little layers to get it. I
Hmm.
can't just like write it and then that's it.
Right.
So,
I know what you mean. Yeah, and I've been rereading. I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be reading through some of your work, the
mm,
book that you finished that you submitted, and I really like it doesn't show in your finished work as far as if you've had issues with dialogue because it all flows really well.
okay. Oh, good. Thank you. I
I really
appreciate
like
that.
it, and I really like your uh, you made some changes between the because I read the rough draft of it
Hmm.
and then this draft of it. Did some switcheroo without again, like without spoiling anything or
Hmm.
talking about anything particular. You shifted some chapters around with some characters' perspectives and introduced different ones at different times than
Hmm.
before. And I think it really uh, it, it really flows really well. The beats between like the
Okay,
pacing of it,
good.
it
Yeah.
really is good on that. Um, so I've definitely seen a lot of it's like reading a different story. I mean, it's the same
Good. I'm
story,
glad.
but it's like, oh wow, this is uh it makes more of a difference than even I realized it would when I saw it
Mm,
when I was changed. It's like, oh, okay, cool. This
yeah.
is yeah, I like it. I like that's another thing I've had issues with for not I've had that issue kind of within chapters sometimes. Like
Hmm.
um on revisions, one of the things I'll go through is sometimes I'll end up putting what was like at the end of a paragraph or
Hmm.
sentence of like character thoughts. I'll end up putting that like at the
The
beginning or
beginning.
in the
Yes.
middle. Like I'll have to like I don't know, I'll just change up like the order of the structure of like a conversation sometimes or of
Hmm.
a character's thoughts or even just on a single paragraph level. Like that's a to try to fix my pacing within a chapter is something that
Yeah.
I really have to tweak on that a lot
Hmm.
to get it right. And action scenes, I really work and drill down on. Anytime there's a lot of action, like a fighting scene or
Hmm.
something like that, I really it's important to me to make that legible and
Hmm.
understand. I try to not to have enough description, but not too much where you can understand what's happening and it not just
Yeah.
last pages and pages and pages.
Right.
I try to make it concise and uh, and man, it's rough sometimes when I start. Like he did this and he did that, like just in your rough draft. Everybody's rough
Yeah.
draft looks pretty
Everything's
rough,
like, yeah.
but that's one dialogue and action beats are things that I um, really have to go back and work on to
Hmm.
make sure they're up to my standards that I want, where I'm comfortable to show other people, get
Yes.
it to the
Yeah.
point that I
Yeah.
feel happy with it.
So we can briefly talk about the importance of having other eyes on your work and eyes that
Oh
you
yeah.
trust and people's opinions that you trust.
Hmm.
Um, because so that draft the first one that I sent you, um, my original, I had put in those POV chapters, this other POV chapter
Hmm.
earlier, and then I had gotten feedback from one person, and then I pushed it back. So that was the version that you got. But
Hmm.
then the feedback was definitely because at that point, then I had three readers
Hmm.
to move up those chapters, the POV, to kind of advance the plotting a little bit. And then
Uh-huh.
something else that came out of having the beta readers was you enjoyed this character, but you didn't understand her motivation and why she was making certain choices. And it
Right.
wasn't necessarily obvious as to
Hmm.
why, whereas in my mind, it was totally obvious as to
Right.
why.
Yeah.
But obviously, a reader reading it doesn't know. And then that was some of the feedback I think I gave you
Yes.
with some of your work. So, can you talk a little bit about, the importance of, because I know it can be really hard to let your work be seen by somebody else and kind
Yeah.
of have to sit through and be like, oh, that did not come off the way I wanted it to come off. um, but I think, as we've both discovered, that it's important.
Oh yes. I think it's one of the most important aspects of writing, is being able to knowing how to take criticism and knowing how to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing how to take criticism and implement it in a way that can make you look at things differently. Because if you're just thinking like if you're there's a lot of ways you can take it. Like some people they're afraid to show their work to anybody because they don't want people to say it's bad, or they will get mad if they say it's no, they're just wrong. Like that's
Right.
two ways that you can take criticism that are bad. It's just to be like, oh no, it sucks. Okay. Or no, they're just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine the way it is. Because either one of those, you end up not doing anything to fix the
Right.
problems. It's yeah, it's important to be able to take those that feedback and make it. I, I think it needs to alter the way you think about the story a little bit, or that
Mm-hmm.
that part of it. And sometimes, not to say that all criticism and all feedback is that you should go with it. Like you said, like you got one piece of feedback telling you to move something, and then
Yeah.
some other feedback telling you to. So like it's not all created equal, and you
Yeah.
kind of need to figure out like a detector for that to figure out, BS detector for, and you grow that the more you see it, even just over like you saw there, just on this
Mm-hmm.
one on that one work. Um, because when I get feedback on something and it makes me realize like, oh, this is corny. Like this person, like this isn't good. This is corny. I'm like, oh man, it is. Wow. Okay. And then I
That
will
wasn't my
not.
feedback, by the way.
That wasn't yours. No, I got feedback before you on one of the first people that read mine. There were a few times and a couple I disagreed with, but one in particular, I was like, oh man, yeah, that's rough. I need to change that. Uh, like I wrote a family scene in one of them, and it was just like some people like just cliched stuff in it that I didn't even realize it really at the time because I was just had been just it's one of those segments that I just written to write it and then get to the next thing where it was like, oh, what's your mother been feeding you? Oh, just anything you eat. He can eat more than his dad. Oh, that's the We'll see about that later. And the person's like, what
Right.
is this? This is bad. I'm like, yeah, this isn't good. I shouldn't have wrote that. And then I'll like have that shame sitting on me for a bit. Like, okay,
Right.
after this passes, what can I do that seems more natural? And
Hmm.
just go back into it. And because and there's a difference between criticism and somebody just being mean, like you said, and somebody, I don't
Yeah.
like this, I don't like this, because that doesn't really help. But if
Right.
somebody can tell you why something didn't work for them, that's really important because you can only, you're too close to it to be able to judge that
Yeah.
yourself. Um, Even if you put distance from it, the best way to get that yourself is if you, before I give my stuff to anybody to read, usually what I'll do is I'll write it and then I will put it aside
Hmm.
for a while, like a month if I can. If I can stand to do it that long, longer if possible, but usually it's about a month, 4 weeks is the most I can handle not going back and looking at it because I really
Right.
want to. But you've got to allow yourself some time to forget what you wrote and have some distance from it. So when you go back to it with fresh eyes and be like, oh, okay, I need
Mhm.
to fix this, this, and this. And the reason I do that before I give it to people is because I just know that I'm going to catch something that I did. I'm not confident in like just putting it out there. Okay, here's what
Right.
I wrote. Here it is. Um, that's why it would be hard for me to do like a short story about like what you're doing on Substack. That's incredible because I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't be able to pump. I'd have to have a whole year's worth of stuff all ready to go, and then I can do it
And
because
then you can
it
be
takes
like,
me
okay,
too
let me
yeah
edit it. And
it takes me
yeah,
too
doing it,
long.
this is not this is very much an experiment because it is nerve-wracking because it's very, I mean, I edit, but it's not
Mhm.
like going over and doing revisions because
Right.
it's a short story. And so it is very scary because like it's like, oh, I put this out. I don't know if that's exactly the way I would
Hmm.
wanted it to go out if I had like 3 more months to work on this.
Right. And that's good. That can be good on things. There's certain aspects of that that I'm sure lead it to um yeah, that's not bad necessarily always. It can have some like, oh, because I wouldn't have necessarily done this, but yeah, it worked out. And then maybe you have a follow-up idea for that or something. But yeah, feedback is the most important thing to me on getting it right because you want to make sure, like you said, certain things that weren't obvious that like you're like, oh, it was because you have thoughts of the character in your head that you're trying to get on the page and convey a certain sense of emotion, sense of
Mhm.
feeling. And you can sometimes trick yourself into thinking that you've written that
Written that.
because of the connection that you have with it,
Yes.
even though it's not as descriptive as you like. So when you read something that has a meaning to you,
Hmm.
that it's like, oh, that's clear and obvious, but somebody else reads it that doesn't, that's not in your headspace. It's like, so I'm
Right,
not
exactly.
that
Like
they're
what?
confused about
Yeah.
what this means or why they wanted to do that. And I didn't even, before I started like getting feedback, I didn't even think about that, being a
Right.
possibility. But when I started getting it, it's like, oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they're right. This makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it is important to be able to get it from somebody, like you said, that you trust, that's not too close to you, that's not afraid to
Mhm.
tell you how it is. Like
Yeah.
family and friends are good if they want to read your stuff, that's cool, but you shouldn't always just trust, people that are less likely to want to hurt your feelings on something, even though it's not
Right.
going to. I would welcome, you know, feedback and criticism. It's not gonna like if I get something rough, I need to know. If it's
Right.
something that is really, hey, this did not work at all for me. I
Yeah.
don't like this. Be like, okay, ouch, but thank you. I need to know that.
Right.
Uh, yeah, it's really important to not take it in a bad way,
Right.
especially if you're trying to get criticism from like beta readers or something like that, because like their
Hmm.
whole thing, you want them to point out
Exactly.
issues with it,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have issues with it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, just like when I do get to the point that I'm publishing things, I'm gonna have to hire an editor to do it.
Hmm.
I guess I don't have to because there are a lot of people that don't. They'll just use like Grammarly or whatever and make sure all their grammar and stuff's good and all that. Do a line edit themselves basically, and that's cool. But it's not enough. Like I'm not a professional editor.
Hmm.
I need a professional editor to look at
Yeah.
things. And you don't always have to take every one of their suggestions either. You shouldn't.
Right.
You should fight back but you need to have that just like same as, criticism on uh constructive criticism, rather feedback. You
Yes.
need to be able to take that and go with it, and have your little BS detector on, and know
Hmm.
what you need to keep and what you need not to. Sometimes I've gotten feedback that I can't remember an exact example, but it was like I didn't agree with the feedback on that example, on that thing that
Hmm.
they did, but it made me think about something else and ended up changing it anyway. Like
Yes.
it's just it makes your brain work in a different way. And especially if you're in one gear for so long on one project,
Hmm.
it's so beneficial to just have that switched up, to have
Yeah.
you looking, because it makes you look at other parts of it in a different way too, and
Hmm.
other scenes that maybe they didn't even talk about like that. It's like, yeah,
Right.
that could use some touch ups as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I think one of the things that I got back from all three were they wanted a certain character to die. And I thought about it and I thought about it and I sat with it and I was like, no, I cannot do this because this person would not do that. Like that's
Yeah,
not what she would do. Like,
right,
it would completely there's nothing in the story that would say that she would do that ever. I'd
right.
have to change her character completely,
Yeah,
and that wasn't who she was. But you haven't gotten there yet. I did
right.
end up rewriting that scene that felt a lot more satisfying and a lot more okay, she would do that though.
Okay,
And
cool.
okay, and this makes more sense. And then it helped me with foreshadowing when I went back and started doing
Right,
some foreshadowing.
cool.
Um and yeah, and so all those little things that you don't necessarily like when you're writing it, you're just getting it out even after you've revised it and you've done your Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid or whatever it is you're using to edit, and you still need that other voice
Yeah.
to kind of read it and throw it back at you, kind of. It's
Hmm.
kind of like baseball. You can't play baseball without having the ball thrown at your head sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back to what you were saying about that. Goes back to what we were saying earlier about you can't always you shouldn't always necessarily give the reader everything they want or everything
Hmm.
they think they want, because they might,
Yeah.
when it comes down to it and they see like, for one, that can help, like you saying wanting a certain character to die. Um, well, maybe that'll happen later. That
Right.
they'll keep somebody if that's something that they if that's a thing. Like there's so many pieces of media have a thing where there's the same villain, or a
Hmm.
recurring villain pops up. That's a classic trope that
Yeah.
and it's for a reason. It's because people love to hate something. So if like you really you know like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, it's like it would be really all it kind of loses interest if Moriarty actually like
Yeah.
dies or something, or like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, I guess
Well, that's it.
that sucks. It's like yeah, I hated him, but like
Hmm.
I didn't want you. Dang crap, I
Right.
didn't want you to actually kill him. So yeah, there's definite there's ways to push to give something to the audience that they maybe didn't realize that they wanted in that case. And I like to try to set that up if possible.
Hmm.
But yeah, not all, like you can use feedback in that way to be like, okay, so they want this, or they think this would be, so you can then kind of craft a way
Yeah.
around that is satisfying in a way that the reader didn't even expect that they would
Effect.
get. They'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, I didn't even know I wanted this. That's
Yeah.
great. That's cool.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the idea anyway.
that's the idea. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me this month on Writing in the Dark.
Well, I really appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure. It's always fun to have a good conversation with you.
Yes, thank you.